You ever have someone tell you that it's okay to not have an opinion about a subject? Well, I want to argue that most times you actually shouldn't, and in fact can't. So let's kind of explore this really in a way, right? So there's someone I know who used to have this phrase, in fact they still do, that the person next to you on the bar stool just wants to keep you there next to them, right? And it's a way of saying that they want to clip your wings and prevent you from shining and moving forward in life because that means that they're now lonely because you're not there next to them, right? You know, misery loves company kind of is the root of this. And just by that description, maybe you can already tell that's a very limiting thought, right? It comes from a very negative viewpoint of the world. Sure, in its intention, it might be noble in spirit in the sense of never let anyone clip your wings and, you know, keep shining, keep moving forward. Don't let others bring you down. That's all there, but it's rooted in a deep judgment zone, right? And you know, it's there based on this person's like history and stuff like that because, you know, as you imagine, it doesn't take a therapist to know like they've probably been burnt one too many times. And, you know, this can apply both in a literal sense and a metaphorical sense. So I get the nobility of the intention, but doesn't mean it's correct, right? Byron Katie, you know, she always pushes us to test our beliefs. You know, is that true? Can you know for certain that it's true, right? And so when we run this idea that the person next to you wants to keep you on the bar stool, like, can you be certain that's true? And the truth of the matter is that, you know, most times you simply can't know for certain. And yet we have this resolve within ourselves, and it comes from the ego where we judge and we just believe ourselves to be absolutely correct without really sort of evidence, right? And we also, even when we have, we think what we have is evidence, right? So here's another example. In the entertainment space, you know, movies and TV shows get sold and things like that, and you know, based on box office returns, especially for movies, you know, then it's like people start to be like, oh, you know, this is really popular. This is what's making money. This is what we need to pitch. And, you know, then studios end up picking that up. But it's a crapshoot. Nobody ultimately knows what's going to be a hit and what's going to be a flop. You know, at the end of the day, like I look at Everything Everywhere at Once as a prime example of this, where that movie, you know, commercially, it's like, what the hell is this? How do you even market it? How do you talk about it? You know, it's so strange and out there. And yet, that's part of what appealed to people, you know? I mean, deep down, there's a very human story and stuff like that. But that's what allowed it to break through, you know? And I think people just play in the zone of fear too many times. I think thinking that they're trying to get to, you know, again, a certainty, right? We don't do good in the spaces that we can't control, right? And admitting that you don't know is part of letting go of a fear, a sense of control, and just kind of going with it and being able to navigate within that space, right? I mean, you know, politics is another example of this where we do all kinds of, you know, polling and things like that, and you know, most of the time, like they're just so wrong, right? Like it's just wild in that way of how inaccurate those can end up being. Which is why I'm reminded of Schrödinger's cat, that thought experiment, where you know the notion is that you put a cat into, you know, this box. And, you know, you don't know whether it's alive or dead until you open it up. And that's the part of that thought experiment that I think people miss, is that you don't know until you open it up, right? You don't know the result until you witness it. And so I think too many of us ultimately, right, like this is what all of this boils down to, is we go around thinking we know for certain what will happen, how people are acting and stuff like that, when we just don't know. And we should just do a better job of stopping to pre-subscribe, actions on people. Even if our best friends, we think we know them to a T, people can still surprise us. We just don't know until it happens. And we just simply expend so much energy in thinking about what's going to happen, right? Predicting that outcome, for better or worse, that thinking we know is the limiting belief in our lives. And this can apply to a microcosm, and it certainly can be expanded out into larger issues, in your life on a day-to-day, and certainly the scope of the world. So, for all those reasons, just start to adopt that I don't know. And it's okay. It's okay to not know. Embrace that, because truthfully, most people that think they know don't actually know. So that's my message.